Well, I was going to say, you'll never be successful if you don't bet on yourself. And that's huge, because there's a author out there, and this guy's a personal trainer. His name's Tim Grover. I don't know if any of you guys know who Tim Grover is, but he wrote a book called Relentless. And he was the personal trainer for Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan. He trains Russell Wilson. I mean, he trains all kinds of elite athletes in all different kinds of sports. And I was listening to a podcast the other day with him on there, and he just said, not only is betting on yourself important because, it's good to bet on yourself, but there's a confidence of once you bet on yourself and you get it, and you really have that confidence that you bet it on yourself and it worked. All those killer athletes that he trained said that those killer athletes he trained they all have this killer instinct of them, where they have this just insane amount of confidence inside them that, when they go out on game night, in their head, they are like, I'm going to destroy this. I'm going to absolutely destroy this. And that's how he said every person he's trained, if they didn't have that, they didn't turn out to be anything. But the ones that he trained all had that killer instinct. The ones that were successful all had that killer instinct. And he said you can relate that just to everything, not just athletics, but to business as well. He says business and athletics are the exact same way. If you got that killer instinct, you got to have that killer instinct, or you're not gonna make it. You're not gonna push through when it gets hard.
Yeah.
So
and it is hard. I mean, that's anything worth achieving is hard.
Yeah.
I don't care whether you're, I don't care if you're a welder or you're the staff accountant. If you're going to be the best at it, it's two different type of training and two different mindsets. Not mindsets. The mindsets are probably the same, but it's different, but it's the same in the fact you've got to put in the time, whatever it is, to get better, and you've got to work harder than everybody else that's doing it. And, you're using sports analogy, and this is me dating myself a little bit, but there's a great story about Jerry Rice when he was playing for the 49ers. And they had won the Super Bowl, and I'm not so sure. I think that this is when they won it, and the Super Bowl was actually at Los Angeles Stadium,
San Francisco.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so they win the Super Bowl, and the guy telling the story was on the team, but I can't remember who he was. And he went back to the stadium the next day to get something. And Jerry Rice was there running routes. This is the day after they won the Super Bowl.
The day after. Yep.
And he was just like, what in the hell are you doing? And Jerry's like, what? He's like, next season starts today because it doesn't matter. We got to keep going. And there's a lot of stories about he had this route that he ran up this hill. I don't know where it was, and guys would want to go work out with him because they wanted to be around him because he was a winner and because he was driven.
Right.
And
they wanted to train like
they
him.
wanted to train like
They
him.
wanted the secret sauce.
Yeah. And he'd do whatever with him, and then he'd be like, "You want to go on a run?" And he'd go up this hill, and nobody was ever behind him by the time he got to the top.
Nope.
But he was at the peak of his performance, his game, but he didn't act like it. He never, he didn't rest on he just kept working, kept working. And that's
the other thing with what Tim Grover said. He said, these guys, they had that confidence in themselves, and they were super confident and almost had an arrogance to them inside.
Right.
But on the outside, they didn't show that unless it became game time. Then it was personal. I mean, they were going to be savages once it come game time, but they would never show that they were arrogant.
Right.
But inside themselves, they were arrogant. I'm going to kick the shit out of these guys. I mean, that's how they were in their head.
I think you can do that when you are to the point that it mentally.
Yeah, you bet on yourself and you knew it worked.
You don't have to be arrogant.
Right.
You don't have to project any false persona. You can just be you, because
You put in the work.
You put in the
time.
work
You
and-
bet on yourself.
So you knew.